right, we're back. Podhalla Postgame. We did a couple of these, if I remember correctly, during the playoffs last year. We'd come on after a game and chit chat about it. And we're doing it right now because we want to support our new audio feed, the Podhalla podcast feed, on its own now, but also gets us a chance to do this thing live on YouTube. So appreciate everybody listening. Appreciate folks who are watching. We just watched the Valkyries beat the Chicago Sky 91-71. And I guess I would say when this game started, I kind of started to think, oh, like Kia and Janelle being out is actually going to be a big deal. And I think Chicago was game. They played well through the first half and a little bit in the second half. And then the Valkyries just went on a run. They shut everything down. They're jumping passing lanes. Every time they tried to dump the ball to Camila Cardoso, three people were jumping in to defend her or to steal the ball. And all the things that the Valkyries do really well, they really turned it on in the second half and they ran away with the game. What were your overall thoughts as we open up here?
That this is their second time seeing Chicago this season, and I was at the game in person for the first one, and we had a long podcast shortly after about just like, okay, what are these offensive lulls going to mean for this season, and like what happens when they play a team that is good defensively, like they can match some of the stuff they do defensively, like what's going to happen. And so I feel like the first half actually kind of mirrored a little bit of that very first game where it felt like, they were playing good defense on us. But really the only thing that, went really different was Tiffany Hayes didn't play that first game. And Tiffany Hayes played this game. And Tiffany Hayes balled out in this game. That's timeless Tiffany Hayes, man. That, like, she, I feel like some of the stuff we saw with Caitlin Chen kind of, when she started doing some like just going on runs by herself, a few acrobatic layups here and there. And like Tip has just as they've figured out some defensive kind of figured out how to guard Caitlin a little bit. Like Tip has just been like, okay, my turn. Like I'm just gonna take over for the past like 5 games. And I don't think they win this game without Tiffany Hayes. The Tip breaking down Chicago's like defense, like that's what did it. Like, that just made Chicago like, kind of give up a little bit, and that made open Caitlin Chen 3-pointers. Like Tiffany Hayes, I cannot stress this enough. I think she genuinely won them this game.
We talk about gravity with Steph Curry because basketball moves to him, and then all of a sudden you see the defense just move towards him. Like they are not even, they're just instinctively moving. And what she was doing was not because of the 3-pointer. She would get the ball and she would go hard one way, and you would see all 5 defensive members move towards her way. And it was almost like a fake out in a sense. She's like, oh, I see you all are moving when I move. This is interesting. And so she'd cross over, she'd go hard, she'd hedge, double would come, and then she'd find the open shooter, and they were getting so many open looks that way. It was an amazing performance for her. And what I would wonder, and I should shoot Conrado a text to see what he thinks, because he's actually at Valhalla right now at the game. But I wonder if that was something that she instinctively saw, or the coaches saw and was like, this is how we are going to handle these possessions with her, because we know there are certain folks in the backcourt on the Chicago team that we're just not going to be able to stay with the Valkyries guards. And I think they knew that. So they were going to overhelp anyways. And I just wonder, like, who came up with the game plan there, because it was actually tremendous to watch her. She had the basketball just on like a yo-yo, and she was able to do whatever she wanted. And she found, like, she made, I can't think of a decision when it was a wrong decision for her. I think every decision she made was the right decision when she had the basketball.
Yeah. And I have a lot of memories from that first game being there. And what I remember is Gabriella Jaquez, Natasha Cloud, Skylar Diggins, JC Sheldon just being able to kind of stay in front of the Valkyries guards. And the guards that were available were Burton, Gabby Williams, and Caitlin Chen. And I remember saying that Caitlin Chen, was able to get to the rim. She was just missing her layups. Like she
Yeah.
was getting to where she wanted to go on some drives, but just missing her layups. And so, like, these aren't weak Chicago Sky defenders. It was Dejanay Carrington on Tiffany Hayes. It was Natasha Cloud on Tiffany Hayes. It was JC Sheldon on Tiffany Hayes. But her just has like one of the most incredible first steps. And I just yeah, no, I mean, I just remember how kind of hopeless at times in that first game it felt against the Chicago Sky, not having someone who can get a bucket and get to the cup, get to the free throw line. And it was literally a stalemate for that entire first Chicago Sky game, except for Rakia Jackson,
Mm-hmm.
terribly, but still made 6 shots of 18 shots or something like that. I think she was getting to the free throw line, and she was just like, okay, like I'll at least put the basketball in the net a couple times. And that was
Mm-hmm.
kind of the difference maker. And like I don't think there was a big Janelle presence in that first game either, but it just goes to show like they just needed some type of scoring and they would have beaten this opponent. And Tiffany Hayes just, as we say, like you look at the ESPN schedule for this team and they have the column with who scored the most points in the game. It's just another addition with Tip Hayes scoring the most points in a Valkyries game. How many Valkyries have had a team high in points? Like how many different Valkyries has it been? Kind of, speaking of Conrado, who's probably there, and I wouldn't be surprised if he asks Natalie something like this, but something I want to ask Conrado is, what does this mean for Ashton Prechtel? Because
Mm-hmm.
I thought that she played a pretty good game and she's on a development contract, and like I would like to see more of her. I think she brings a different dimension, just being able to space the floor. She was able to get to the free throw line for 3 free throws on a Camila Cardoso poorly timed closeout. And there's just a different level, or just we saw what a spacing 5 looked like with
Mm-hmm.
Repair there.
Offensively, it looked really good. Defensively, I could tell she was having
Good
trouble.
things though, like it's against Camilla, who's a very strong, uh, large big who
Yeah.
can kind of I seeing Amihir on her kind of reminded me of like Amihir trying to guard Aaliyah Boston too, where it kind
Mm-hmm.
of looked like she was a little bit of fish out of water, but
Yeah.
still some things for somehow able to like go her way. But Prechtel kind of is able to be there a little bit with size, and I think she got some tips and she got some rebounds, and I thought she played a pretty good game.
Yeah, I
And
thought she played
like
fine, especially for
yeah,
someone who hasn't really played all year long. I think the thing where you could see that she just doesn't have the reps is this is a switching defense, and they all
mhm.
switch so rhythmically.
She might not be able to like
And that's and just shows you Kia in those moments, and then
oh,
trying to
yeah.
have Prechtel do the same thing. You could tell that that was a little bit off kilter for her, but otherwise, like I thought it was fine. And like you said, offensively, you're just stretching the other team out. So let's talk about Cardoso because when we talked to Kevin Dana, we mentioned like if Kia's out of the game, what are they going to do with Cardoso, because she's just going to be so much bigger than any player that they throw out there. And she had an okay game, but I don't really think it affected the outcome really. Like she got some points. I think she had 18 points or something, but it was like, it wasn't something where they were just spamming it, spamming it, spamming it.
Right.
They're in the second half, they couldn't really get to it because, like I said, the Valkyries were jumping all the passing lanes and they were figuring out what Chicago was trying to do. And there were moments where there was like 3 Valkyries on an entry pass for her, and I was like, man, they know exactly what Chicago's doing offensively here. But yeah, it didn't see like, Ami here's not going to have a crazy box score, but all she had to do was just box her out a few times. She also, I think, now I would also wonder what the Valkyries think. I think she tired her out because she was, running down the other side,
Mhm.
and they were actually having to help because Amir was like the first person down the court a couple times. So stuff like that you don't really see in the box score. But what did you think about how they played against Cardoso?
I mean, yeah, I think I'm with you. First game, she was like 3 for 10. I want to say 3 for 10. This game, she was, I think, 7 for 13. So like a pretty efficient game, a pretty 20 points, a pretty good game. But yeah, I mean, you don't feel those 20 points as you feel some of the other. Tip had what, 20, 21, or but maybe when Tip had 23, but by the point she had like 18 or 20, like those were like game-changing points. It just felt like, Camilla's wasn't that. And yeah, I mean, I think the Valkyries just have like that defense is just they can close in if Camilla gets the ball. And there were a couple times like, okay, I think going down the court, Gabby was on Camilla on this one possession I could think of, and they were trying to force it to Camilla, and Camilla, it was like not a set possession yet. Like we were all still running up the court, and somehow Gabby ended up on Camilla. They try to throw it into Camilla in the paint, and Gabby just is like, okay, well, she doesn't even have her back to me yet. Like we're not even making contact. So she just went around and grabbed the ball. And, I think they're just such a smart defense. And speaking of, I think last episode, Conrado was talking about sometimes like Tip does some of the Gabby defensive plays where she kind of is able to anticipate some steals and some blocks. And oh my God, was on a display tonight. Like Tip looked like Gabby out there on defense too, just making all those defensive plays. Like I can't speak highly enough of how well Tiffany Hayes played tonight. And I think that's like one of my performances by a Valkyrie maybe ever. So, all shouts out to Tip. And I think it's funny because I was going back to Prechtel, looking at her line. Plus 10, 3 points, 5 personal fouls, 2 turnovers, 1 steal, 2 assists, 3 rebounds.
Made all 3 free throws, by the way.
Right. The 3 points came from the 3 free throws that so not a great game statistically, but I felt like there was a lot to like there. Like I think specifically just her being able to spread the floor, her not doing anything bad on defense. Like she wasn't a minus on defense. I could see in some situations where she can potentially become that if she's not able to switch the way the Valkyries need her to. But I thought that just having that dimension on offense with the spacing 5 and open up the lane more for Tip and I liked it, and I would like to see more of it.
The defense thing that you were saying with Tip, I wonder how much of it is gamesmanship, because every time she goes down, she comes up hobbling. She's grabbing her knee, she's grabbing her ankle. There were moments where I think she faked out the announcers. I listened to the USA broadcast just because the picture quality is better on USA than on KPIX. Sorry. Possible future Podhalla guest, Morgan Reagan. I would rather listen to the local broadcast, but the picture's like so blurry on my version of KPIX. So I watched the USA version, and the announcers were a couple times were like, "Oh no, Tip Hayes hobbling, grabbing her leg," and we know that this happens like 5 times a game. And so I wonder if she was goading some of the players on the other end to like think like, oh man, she's hurt, I'm gonna go at her, and then she just snatches the ball.
I just think that's how she's, we know her play style. It's kind of all over the place. Like at least in this season, like when she went down in season 1, like there were actually like injuries, right? And I remember she like broke her nose against the Mystic, the one like game 2 of the season. And first game of this season, right? She gets an injury against the Seattle Storm. And so whenever I see Tip go down, I think when she flies into like the camera section, I'm not that worried. But there was one today where she like stepped wrong on a layup, and I was like, oh goodness, like what is this going to be? But she looked to be fine out there. Dude, the comment section is popping off on this show.
People are excited, man. Look, this is when we have the opportunity to do something like this, I think like fans are like really excited after a game because they want to get their takes in, and we're definitely going to share some while this is going, because, and this is something that we've talked about, and Kevin Dana predicted that the Valkyries were going to beat Minnesota this year at least one time. And so they play next week.
Next Wednesday.
And Minnesota kind of was in a scare of a game tonight. They were cooking Portland, and then Portland came all the way back and almost won. They lost by 4 points, but that's a game that you circle, right? And I don't want to overlook Dallas, because I think the Dallas game is still a big game too, because they're talented if they are on their P's and Q's. But I think folks are circling that Minnesota game.
It's going to be an interesting one. I mean, like, I think in game one, Olivia Miles cooked them. In game two, they were able to kind of contain Olivia Miles, a little bit of Courtney Williams. And it was Nia Coffey who cooked us in game two. I think there's a potential in game three with, kind of, and by game three, I mean, this is the third time they're going to be playing them this season. They will be playing them 4 times all season. But Aces and the Lynx, historically, we've said it on this podcast. If you're new here, like, don't feel good about those matchups. They haven't beat them at all this season. But I agree with Kevin. I think they can get the Minnesota Lynx at least once this season. I think upcoming game next Wednesday is their best chance to do it. But Nafisa's back, completely different. The second best player in the WNBA is back. So they got to figure out what to do there. But hey, man, with Tip playing like this, like, I mean, like, when you have that, like, Chen, Tip, like, second unit, like, I don't think you could stop both of them. I almost think you got to choose which one you want to try and stop. And I think it's been Caitlin Chen in the second unit that's kind of been, the one to get the bucket in the past couple months, and now it's Tip. And I wonder how defenses are going to react to it, because it's your subs playing against these players. It's not your starters. It's the reserves that got to try to buckle down and lock these two rim divers up. And I find it to be, historic. It just not, it hasn't been working for opposing teams. And you have Tip into the fold in against the Minnesota Lynx. Like, that is a new addition to their attack.
I wanted to share Jacob's comment. Jacob from our Discord. Ash's game was a season high in minutes for a Valkyries rookie.
Believe it.
Well, we're going to talk about Usta's minutes in a second, because
no, are we gonna?
Well, we have. I mean, she got in the game. We've been begging for it, and I'll get to it in a second. But the one other thing that I wanted to mention, you mentioned the second team, and I've been thinking about this, and I've mentioned it in a podcast before. The other team is not going to play their bench much in the playoffs. Right. I mean, you'll play some, but you're not going to extend your bench so much. So how is Natalie going to still give that bench minutes if the other team's starters are already back on the court? Like, that's going to be a balance, because they have the best bench in the league. They had over 40 points today just by the bench in a game where they didn't even have Janelle. And so how do you manage that when you're I don't know if the starters are going to be playing 32 minutes or maybe 30 minutes. And so there's going to be 8 to 10 minutes for the bench players. And maybe for someone like Kyla Charles, she may get a little bit more. But I feel like these games are going to be rock fights, and you're going to need your starters for most of them. How do you balance that bench, knowing that the bench is so good, and it is one of the major advantages you have against these other teams?
I know, like, what's the Doc Rivers quote where it's like, you go in with 9 to 10, you like 8, you trust 7, you play 6, or something like that, where he just keeps going down in terms of, like, how many players you could play in the playoffs. And I don't see a world where they don't play at least 8. And I want to say like 9 in the playoffs. Like, how do you, so the starting 5, and then you have Janelle as the 6th woman, you have Caitlin Chen, you have Tiffany Hayes, and Kyla Charles. How do you not play those 9? The one who I could see getting left out is probably Ami here, but I could see her being, like, used in moments, just not like.
Now here's where it's going to happen. Playoff basketball, it's more physical, so there's going to be more fouls, and so you're going to have to deal probably more with foul trouble. So that's maybe where some of that comes. By the way, Grandma Mo in the chat said that the Lynx had a 20-point lead, and Portland got it down to 2 in the 4th, and they just started missing shots. They just started missing shots, and the fire caught up.
Did Carla even play tonight? I have her on my fantasy team, but I didn't play her because I thought she was going to be hurt. So if they did that without Carla, that's pretty crazy.
So, yeah, like, I'm very interested to see, because if your whole, everything that you've been preaching is like, what did David Lee say back in the day? Was it full squad? If you're preaching full squad, it may just be one of those things where it's just like, everybody's just got to be ready, and you got to be ready to come in at any point. Okay, so let's talk. We don't have to talk a lot about Ustay, but she did get in the game, and
she did.
I think I was like maybe a minute or two behind the live feed. And your brother, JJ, my son, just posted in the chat and he's like, man, they got something against her. They're kicking their butts and there's 4 minutes left and she's still not in the game. And then like 30 seconds later, it felt like she was in there. So she did get a little bit of time. I mean, and we haven't seen her play in so long. So it's nice to see her out there. You know, we posted in the audio feed. We posted your old interview from last year as a Podhalla classic. So if anyone hasn't heard that interview that Brian did in May of last year, which is it's so interesting in hindsight to compare it to what happened, because I mean everything that she said was kind of how it worked, and but it's good to see her get in there. I'm sure she's not, wasn't enough for her because she's a competitor, but I'm glad that she got on the court, and hopefully there will be more moments like this, especially as we get later in the season. And then when there's the break where some of the players may leave it a little early, hopefully she will get the opportunity to play a little bit more. The one thing though, I was like, you're trying to cross Dejanay? Like, what's going on here? Dejanay is like, nope, cookies, and then got called for the foul.
Dejanay was sick of getting cooked tonight, man. Tip was just had it out for her for some reason. And yeah, if you stay, I mean, I think you stay. I mean, just because I'm such a big Yuste fan, of course, my eyes are on her when she's in the game in these, garbage time minutes. But I think there have been times where she gets the ball and, in these garbage time minutes and she passes it because she wants to, play within the offense with 2 minutes left. And I think today was the first time she was like, screw this. I'm taking this thing to the rim first chance I get. I don't think Dejanay fouled her though.
Yeah, it didn't look like it live.
It looked clean. It looked clean. But hey, good for Yuste for that little like kind of mentality shift right there. When you get into the game, garbage time, put up a shot, man. Just do it.
The Valkyries also won this game without really going crazy from three. What they said last game, they average about 10 3-pointers a game, 3-pointers made. They were only 8 of 21, so they shot a decent percentage, but they didn't go lights out with how they usually shoot these things. You had mentioned the ESPN box score. So here's how great Tip's game was. Led the team in points, led the team in rebounds, though I think VB and her were actually tied, led the team in assists. So she was like the leader in all of the different categories. Also tied for the lead in steals. I think there were 3 Valkyries players who each had 3 steals. So just overall an amazing game. And there were things that I'm sure Natalie is looking for things to coach up. The beginning of the game wasn't fantastic, just like the game in which they beat Dallas, where she's like, Paige just cooks us for 2 threes in a row. That's not great defense. I'm sure there's something to get down on the team or to coach them about. But outside of the first quarter, which Chicago did win the first quarter 24-16, the Valkyries won the second quarter 27-16, won the third quarter 29-18, won the fourth quarter 19-13. And there was a moment, I think it was in the third quarter, I was posting on our Podhalla Blue Sky account, and I was like, I would love to see them go on a run to kind of put this thing away. And I think they already had like a 5-0 run, and then they just extended it to 10, and then it was like 13-3. And that was where they kind of just locked in and put it away and were just stealing the ball. And then it did allow them to kind of empty their bench a little bit at the end. But, this was one of those games where you're like, okay, they got punched in the mouth in the beginning, and it almost felt like they were like, we got this. Like, we've figured this thing out already. We just need the rest of this game to kind of show everyone that we got this game.
I just feel like it was all Tip, man. Both of the games, Chicago scored the same amount of points. First game, they scored 69. Tonight, they scored 71 or something like that. Like, it was the same offensive performance essentially from Chicago, and it's just Tip Hayes was the difference between the two games, both in appearance and stats. Like, I'm going to be talking about this performance for a while. I thought it was pretty crazy.
So the game leaves them 24-9. So they are still about a game and a half ahead of the Aces. They've won 5 straight. The Lynx have also won 3 straight, so, unless they get a little cold, they're probably, they're kinda running away with this a little bit, but the Valkyries do play them next week. Aces at 23 and 11, and, the Wings at 20 and 14. Fever also I was looking at the West, but Fever 21 and 12. They've won 2 in a row. So looking forward, on Monday, they play 3 times next week, by the way. So it
Are they done
is
for the rest of the week?
Yes, they don't play
Wow.
for the rest of this week. So they play at home against Dallas on Monday, 7 p.m. start. They play at home against Minnesota on Wednesday, 7 p.m. start. One of the Monday game is actually a Peacock game, and the Wednesday game is a USA game. And then Friday they're back against Chicago in Chicago, 4:30 game. Ion. I hate the Ion games. And then they're back again Monday at Minnesota, and then Wednesday at Connecticut. So they got a bunch of games in the next 2 weeks. Thursday at New York. So starting Monday, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games in a span of 9 days or something like that? Is that possible?
No.
No, 13 days. 9 in 13 days. And then that's when the break happens. So those last couple weeks, or those last couple games, I'm sorry, at New York, at Portland, we could see some interesting lineup adjustments depending on who's already left for the
Didn't
World
we
Cup.
kind of like hypothesize like, okay, if they're at New York, like, the World Cup's in what, Germany? Like, is Gabby Janelle really gonna fly all the way back to the West Coast instead of just getting on a flight to Germany? Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see if the reporters out there. I wonder if Conrado's going to be able to get some intel, some insight into when when they'll have to maybe utilize more of their bench because some of their better players are
Yeah.
going to be leaving. So
Yep,
that'll be
he'll be on
interesting.
that.
All right. Do you have any? So I think I know. I wanted to do player of the game, and I think I know yours. Tip. Tip is the player of the game, but I wanted to test out another player. And I feel like her game was just very easygoing, like very simple, kind of just like easy work kind of game. And that was Gabby. Like I don't think Gabby played even near the best game of her season or what she's capable of. But it was just kind of like those moments where she was like, how sometimes when we would watch those really good Warriors teams and, KD would kind of be sleepy a little bit and then the Warriors would need a bucket and then he'd just go like, okay, like give me the ball, 19-footer bang somebody's face, 15-footer bang somebody's face, up layup, alley-oop dunk. And then you're at like, you go, wait, KD had like 27 points. Like when did that happen? Like she had a little bit of a sleepy game today. But when they needed something, especially on defense, she kind of turned it up and was like, "Okay, I'm gonna, I'll show out on this play." And I thought that from a tempo and a rhythm standpoint, I think she sets the tone on both ends so well.
Mhm.
And especially when she needs to attack off the dribble, like she mostly goes right, and they still cannot stop her going right. She went right around. I thought Cardoso was going to try to block one of her shots, but nope, she went right by her layup. She's
I think
so
it's just like
quick.
how much she extends. Like, her being a track star, what was she, a high jump? She was also doing some long jump, but like just the way she does her layups and like there's so much like extension of like,
It's the first step. It's the long strides.
mhm.
It's the long arms. She can jump as well, so she's extending and jumping. She's like a track athlete on a basketball court. Is
She
what she
went
looks
to
like.
college for both.
Yeah, that's what she looks like. So
Yeah.
I just really think like when like she kind of knows and I know she's pacing herself. They're pacing her minutes as well, so she knows that she's not gonna be crazy diving for loose balls and going into crowds and stuff. But like she when she needs to, she sets that tempo and they kind of play off of her. Again, she's like a deer, like a graceful deer
Mhm.
out there on the basketball court. So it's really fun to see. All right, predictions for next week. Do they go 2-1? Could they win all 3 games? I mean, we don't know about Kia. I think Kia posted on Threads that she feels okay. This is just kind of part of the protocol as to why she had to miss the game today. I don't know about Janelle. I didn't hear anything about Janelle as far
Right.
as like what the severity of her injury is. But do you think, are they going to get that game in Minnesota? Would you put money on it?
I feel pretty confident. Like we know it's going to be a relatively like I would put money on it that it's going to be a tight game
Against Minnesota. Sorry, they're
against
home
Minnesota.
against Minnesota.
Like I'm going to try to go. We'll see what ticket prices look like, but the first 2 times they've played them, although Minnesota's won, it's been relatively tight games. Like I'm expecting another tight game, and I do think this is the one to get. Just like Kevin Dan has been saying, I'm with him there. I think there is one to get this season, and I think if there is one, it's going to be this one. And so like, I mean, it's so refreshing, right? When we used to do the Death Lineup Warriors pods, where it's like predict their next 4. It's like, God, I hope 500. I hope. Like I've got to say, like 2-1 to 3-0, right? Like that's just obviously, but I think Dallas is going to want their get back because they finally broke a losing streak tonight and it was a tight game against Toronto. But I think we still get Dallas. So yeah, it's just do you think they win the Minnesota game or not? That's kind of how you're gonna, say how much they're gonna win this week, because I think they get Chicago, I think they get Dallas. Like, do they win against Minnesota? And I'm gonna go with yes. I'm gonna say 3-0.
I think I think they're really going to go for this game in Minnesota. Now, this is if they're healthy. I think they have to prove to themselves that they can get a game. And I think it'll be good for them in the playoffs. And if you're Minnesota, you're like, no, we don't want them to get a game. We don't want them to think that they can
Yeah.
get one on us. We're going to go all out and win this game. I think the game that they could lose is the Dallas game, because it's a little bit of a trap game. I would hope that they're not overlooking the Dallas game, just looking to. I kind of wish that the Minnesota game was on Monday instead of Wednesday. But if I'm looking at it from like the perspective of how sometimes these things work, I'm a little worried about that Dallas game. I do think that they need to win this Minnesota game just to prove that they can do it, because even in the chat, there are some people saying, yeah, like until they win, I'm not sure they could beat Minnesota or Las Vegas. So they kind of have to prove it. And I think it's one of those things where when you're looking for like the next unlocks, like what are we looking for from this team? What's the next milestone for them?
Winning a
Beating
playoff
Minnesota
game.
and then winning a
Yeah.
game in the playoffs, and then winning a round in the playoffs. Like those are all the next steps in the evolution of their basketball team. So I think Wednesday's kind of a sneaky, like really big game for them.
Agreed.
Okay, so I just wanted to shout out some of the folks in the chat here. Let's see. Izzy is very confident that we're going to get the soda game. Valks are in their groove right now. Grandma, I want to shout out Grandma Mo for hanging out with us. She also said that Carla did not play today. KKS2360 hanging out in the chat. Jacob, of course, our friend from the Discord. Some other people were in here earlier. There was a couple of folks who were a little naysaying. Actually, Pharaoh X115 said, I can't wait till the team beats Minnesota next Wednesday. So, I think when you win games like this, and it's like not even your best game and you still cook by 20, it does give you a little bit of like, okay, like even if they don't play their best, they're still winning these games. So I'm gonna go out on a limb and say beat Minnesota, and if they do lose a game next week, it could be Dallas, or maybe do they just dump the Chicago game just because if you win the first 2 and then you're like, Chicago, you know, maybe you
This
can.
is a Warriors thing. You're coming from your Warriors mind where they play down to
Hey,
their opponent and they don't
they're
get up for a
but
cruddy.
also they're still limiting minutes for Gabby, so, you know, they may have this mentality of how to still continue for the rest of the season. Okay, that's it. You know, hopefully we can do more of these little post gamers. I think, you know, especially YouTube, the viewers live. We got a lot of people in the chat, so that was really good to see. For those of you on the podcast feed, appreciate you with our new Podhalla feed. If you are not subscribed to the new Podhalla feed, please do so. We considered this launch week and we put a ton of content up there. So check that out. And then on the YouTube page as well, if you subscribe to the channel, we're trying to grow this as well, the BSPN Media channel. So all right. So that is it from here. So for Brian, I am Double G. We will see you when we see you. Peace out.